Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Heart of Truth podcast. I'm so excited to introduce to you today's guest, Katie Kamala Haley. Welcome, Katie. It's such an honor to
Thank
have you
you.
here.
Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Yeah, I know we're going to have such an interesting conversation. We have so much in common. So, just in brief, Katie is a two-time author. She has two books on plants in India and plants in Peru. And I have had the privilege of reading a part of the second one about the plants in Peru. And it is quite a beautiful journey that she shares. And she has 25 years in the healing arts, and she has a nonprofit learning garden in Central Florida. And I looked at the website and it looks so magical. So, again, all of our details will be down below for you to learn a little bit more. But I really want to get into all the magic of the conversation. So, yeah, Katie, I having read your book, I'm like, oh my gosh, there is so much that we can talk about. And I know, thank you, you have read some of mine
Oh,
too.
yes.
Yeah, so we're fellow authors. We've been on similar journeys, similar paths. I've even lived in India myself. So I'm like, where should we even begin this conversation? Because there is so much. But what I would love to kind of just anchor in and perhaps ground for the audience is like, what got you started on your own journey? How did you get on this path of self-exploration and travel and where it's brought you?
Well, for India, I was always fascinated India as a child, and there was really nothing in my childhood that would make me be interested in that. I don't, have parents that are world travelers or they're interested. I grew up very religious, Catholic, but more than just, very religious Catholic. And so that whole idea of Eastern thought, I don't know, it just appealed to me as a young person. And so I was reading books on meditation when I was in high school, and I grew up near Detroit, so I wasn't in the mecca of spiritual enlightenment by any means. So I do believe in past lives. I do believe that we are greater than, this is just like our costume that we're wearing this lifetime over our soul. And I think I just woke up to woke up to more, and I wanted to explore more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree that for on my part anyway, there was just like something within that was guiding me to, I guess, break the mold in hindsight, even though I didn't even
Yes.
see it that way when I was young. I moved to Tokyo at the age of 22 on a whim, to teach English. And then I wound up kind of by happenstance, right, in India. So it's like my soul was just kind of guiding me through, even though I wouldn't have even called it my soul at the time.
Yes, the soul journey, paying attention to the soul journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So that's really fascinating. And so then was that earlier in your journey when you went to India?
No, I was about 40 on my first trip to India, but I had wanted to go there many years and it just didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. But I ended up going there to study Ayurveda and
Mm-hmm.
plants. And I sourced a lot of, I had an essential oil company for 18 years.
Oh,
So I
wow.
worked with a lot of farmers and sourced a lot of oils from India, which was the first time I ever heard about Vandana Shiva, who I write about in my book. She's really like my hero
Mm-hmm.
of someone who is so brave and so strong and really helped. Maybe her alone, I'm sure she had help with her organization, but to get Monsanto out of India and to have these seed banks and to save the seeds and to give people information. One of her books I write about in my book is the about the 1%. I'll think of the title right now. The title is escaping me, but um, it's an amazing book about the technocracy and what's happening with
Mm-hmm.
our food system and seeds, with GMOs and all kinds of issues that are going on. And she's been a real in the forefront and really educated, has a PhD. I admire her a great deal. But I first heard about her in India, and I remember saying, people need to know about this. There needs to be a revolution. And it took many years later, till people are seeing this as a problem that we need to find a solution for. And so my mission with the nonprofit garden is how to teach people how to grow food and organic food and medicine in their own backyard to be more self-sufficient and to grow their own produce organically and to some culinary herbs, some herbs to make teas with, and just simple things that our culture has forgotten about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that so much because, I talk a lot about reconnecting with nature and becoming more sovereign and independent, liberating ourselves. And, it's just very practical to have a garden in your backyard as a means to take that step forward, a food garden,
Yes.
as well as perhaps flowers if you want to
Oh, definitely.
inject some beauty in there. I love flowers.
Yeah. Well,
But
and
the,
the pollinators, yeah, because
Mhm.
that's what's happening with all the spray and the chemicals, that the
Yeah.
bees disappearing, and I have a native Florida plant. So everything that's planted is either a edible, a medicinal, or something for, the environment, the butterflies and the bees and things like that.
I love that. Yeah. And I think so many people have forgotten just how potent and powerful and medicinal a lot of these plants are. And so we're absolutely going to segue into that, I feel like, in
Definitely.
just a half a moment. I just wanted to say that I pulled up from your book the reference to the 1%.
Oh,
So the name is Oneness versus.
oneness versus the 1%.
Yes,
Yes, it
there
came
you
back to
go.
me. Thank you. Thank you.
Shattering Illusions, Seeding Freedom. I haven't read it
Hmm.
myself, but I'm very intrigued. I do know who
She's
she
amazing.
is,
Yeah,
and
she's amazing.
yeah, she is very amazing.
I've been there 4 times now for longer, trips, but I really would like to go back and get to meet her if
Mm,
she would meet me. Maybe on the podcast one day, or I really do. I want to go to her farm and I want to meet her.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with everything that I've heard her say on social media clips and interviews and things like that. I don't know, for whatever reason, I haven't read her own book, but yeah, so I do feel that connecting with nature in the sense of, just going out and being by the ocean or in the forest or to the mountains can be so healing for us. But when we're getting to the nitty gritty, the practical, like actually connecting to the point of remembering the connection we have to the plants and the trees as parts of us, that we are part of the plants, that they are part of us too, that the tree is completely symbolic of us as an energetic being on so many levels. So this is something that I've been working to kind of integrate, is like that organic tree of life template
Hmm.
on the energetic level, but then it's so practical as well. We eat the plants and the trees, and we are elemental beings ourselves.
Yes.
So, yeah, I would love for you to share, because the book that I read was your book in Peru, your experience in Peru working with the plant medicine there. So, I would love for you to share, like, what drew you down in the first place with the audience, like how you began to connect with that level of the plants, like as deep medicine.
Well, the plants had always been medicine to me, but not psychedelic medicine. I mean, even when I was young, I didn't take mushrooms. Not that I wouldn't have, I just didn't have the opportunity. I mean, I had, tried marijuana, and I had, interested in plants as the expansion of consciousness. But I had heard about the ayahuasca, but there was no way to, I was way younger then, to go to Peru. And it's only really been available for Westerners maybe in the last 20 or 30 years. So
Yeah.
I had one of my first yoga teachers, and she brought the shaman to Orlando when I was living in Orlando for a small gathering of people she knew and trusted. And I trusted her that it would be safe, and it was a beautiful experience. And I never thought it would be a path. And I had been taking the medicine and on the path of this particular couple that were shamans for 6 years. And then I got the call, go to Peru, just kind of like you've gotten the call, as to go. And I didn't want to go as a tourist. I didn't really have enough money to stay for 6 months on a vacation. So I thought, well, what could I do? So I applied for an artist residency program. And that's how I ended up going as a writer. And because I had written a book on India with plants, I said, well, I'm going to write a book on the sacred plants of Peru, where I got to meet the coca leaf and the cacao and the huachuma, which is San Pedro, which is a cactus, and of course the ayahuasca, and mapacho, which is a sacred tobacco. So yeah, so it was really thrilling to be there, but it's also a very difficult place to be. There's a lot of hazards there. I write about in the book. I mean, a lot of dangers, not dangers in the way people would think, going to another foreign country that's going to be dangerous, but more dangerous even with nature. It's a place that I don't think is ever meant to be seriously populated. There's a lot of
Mhm.
dangerous things there, and you have to be prepared to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah. Like once you go into these places that are relatively wild and
Yeah.
untamed
Hmm.
comparatively,
Yes, yes.
you remember that you just remember how powerful Mother Nature is and that she is
Oh,
not
yeah.
to be messed with.
Yeah, there's no guardrails. This isn't
Yeah.
Disney World.
Yeah, and like then there's this deep reverence for me anyway that comes up with the potency and the power of the natural world. So I feel like that is something that has been lost for
Hmm.
the Western mind and the
Yes.
Western, way of living and being. It's the do, just, go in there and pillage and demolish anything in the way of what
Yeah.
we want to create rather than operating in communion with the land. So, yeah, I just also noticed this is not a page. I didn't read every single page of your book yet, but I just noticed here on the same page you share a message from Mother Ayahuasca. Do you mind if I share?
No, please do.
Yeah. Basically speaking into the interconnectedness of all life, it seems like you received this message from
Hmm.
Mother Ayahuasca yourself, which
Yes.
confirms this and gives much needed hope. The importance of trees and rivers will be recognized as the new humanity embraces the role of caretakers of the earth. Through phytoremediation, the restoration of contaminated lands will become a priority, rejuvenating ecosystems and fostering biodiversity. Earth housing, blending seamlessly with the natural landscape, will replace the soulless structures of the past, providing shelter that nourishes both body and spirit.
Mm.
What a beautiful
Yeah.
vision. Yeah. A beautiful message, a beautiful vision. Very much aligns with what I see going forward as well. And also, I just recently learned about this plant. It's a little flowering plant that
Hmm.
most people would probably walk by and be like, oh, what a cute little flower. And in fact, it's one of the most potent things I have ever heard of that has the
Really?
power to rejuvenate soil and the waters. And
Oh,
it's strong like hemp, and
what
it's
is it?
it's this little hibiscus plant,
Oh,
canaf. Have you heard of it?
no.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
So
gonna have to send me a link on that.
yeah. So basically, I'm not the expert in this, but my point is that, we have lost this deep knowledge and we have forgotten the wisdom of the earth, of the mother, and that's
Yeah.
what's being resurrected right now. And there's
Mm.
so much abundance and there's so much potential for not just healing, but for actually completely healing the planet
Yes.
and our systems and structures moving forward on even the most practical level of building material, it seems, and
Yes.
clothing and stuff like that.
Exactly. Well, in your book, talking about the old power structures that have to crumble, and that's the thing is that this new earth is going to have to come after the crumbling of a lot of things. And one of the messages that I got early on, so I had a Kundalini awakening, and those of your listeners that are yogis will know what the Kundalini awakening is. During the Kundalini awakening, and it was during an ayahuasca ceremony, that I got the message that humanity was going to split into two types of people. So it was in 2014. There would be the earth-centered people that are connected to the heart and care about the earth, and there would be the people of the mind and the hive mind and a cyber reality. And through this, I kept being taken through this cyber reality, which was really difficult. Like people ask about if you have like bad trips and things, that I've never seen anything demonic or anything terrible except for this. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't call it demonic, but there is some force that's woven within the technologies that are um, dangerous to the mind,
Yeah.
to the mental structure of human beings and to the soul. And I was so excited when I saw Greg Braden talking about this in his new book that's out called Pure Human, because
Mm.
I said, oh, because not many people know who I am, but people know who Greg Braden is, and he's saying the same thing that's been coming to me through the
Hmm.
ayahuasca.
Yeah. Yeah. So two things came to mind immediately, the eagle and the condor prophecy.
Yes, that's in the book.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's in mine as well in the
Uh,
final chapters. So yeah, again, just a
yeah.
lot of resonance and alignment with what, our books are very different, but
Oh yeah,
there's also a lot of commonality in the themes and the essence and the energy I felt.
me too.
Yeah, and so that came up, the eagle and the condor prophecy, which in a moment I guess I can share for the audience who's not familiar, but also that right now we are seeing this transhuman agenda being pushed in the collective, and we kind of discussed this off camera or off audio before
Hmm.
we started recording. So maybe now is a good time for that segue. But briefly, the eagle and the condor prophecy, it goes back, I don't know, 500 years. It's a Native American prophecy, I believe from the Andes
Hmm.
region.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the eagle represents the people who are of the mental, like logic, linear. It basically represents the Western peoples of the earth. And then the condor represents the more heart-centered, connected to earth, intuitive essence, the peoples who are really still connected to their lineages, to the land, to these native wisdoms. And, I also just want to presence that the natives isn't just in North and South America. We're talking about earth-based people
Yes. Yes.
all around the
All over the
world.
world.
Like
Hmm.
the Celtic lineage, which I have a lot of that in there's been so much diaspora with so many of these native traditions that were very earth-based. So it doesn't have to do with any particular land, but it's all lineages connected to the land. And so there's a lot that we could speak into with that, but I feel that it does go hand in hand. And, personally, I'm not going to inject this into your words or anything, but for the audience, like personally, I do believe that there is an actual level of demonic consciousness driving these technological
Yes. Totally.
agendas. Yeah.
Totally. I'm getting chills hearing you talk about that.
Mm,
And the way that I process this, because any kind of channel, which, and I'll get into how the channeling started, because that was through the near death experience
mm,
when I had the altitude sickness. And then I had this ability to channel these messages, and they were only going to be meant for me. I never wanted to write a book. I didn't want to spend 3 years of my life. There was other things I needed to do, but I felt compelled to write the book. I want to say
yeah.
that it wasn't necessarily, it was a difficult process writing the book, but I really wanted to make it for the reader that they had a
Mm,
wonderful experience reading it. But the word that I would get was called the machine. And to
yeah.
try to explain to people machine is would be like me trying to explain what God is. It's such a huge concept. There's no way that I can verbalize that. But what I can say from what you just expressed is that the machine is the enemy of nature. The
Mm,
machine is the enemy of what is sacred. The machine is the enemy of Mother Earth and of
yes.
many other things. And these other things, when people say, oh, you're not into technology, I mean, technology as a tool is one thing, but the machine is all encompassing. And that is where this demonic nature definitely comes in. And I mean, I have chills, I have goosebumps on my arm just talking about this.
Yeah, yeah. I just got a wave through my body too. And, I just had an image of Fern Gully. Do you remember that movie?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
no.
Okay, so Fern Gully is this adorable cartoon. When I was growing up, I don't know exactly when it came out, but I loved it. And there was like little fairy creatures and a bat, I think. I don't know, but it was rainforest. It was set in the rainforest and what was happening in the movie. And honestly, I forget a lot of the details probably, but there were huge bulldozers coming in to destroy the rainforest. And so when you said the machine, that was the
Mhm.
image I got.
Yeah.
And so it's like we know this, but we're also getting so wrapped up in the technological innovation, collectively speaking. I'm not speaking to the people listening necessarily. Perhaps you are aware to enough to know this, that collectively we're being swept up
Yeah.
in this progress, these agendas of technology, and now they're even talking about putting chips in our brains as if it's a good
Hmm.
thing. So, yeah, I would love to hear your perspective on that, given she has an entire chapter called The Machine, by the
Yeah.
way.
It's towards the end of the book.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, what is your perspective on that?
My perspective is that we have to be, and this is where your book comes in, really centered in our soul, centered in ourself. We are entering into a huge era of deception.
Yeah.
So it's enough to try to figure out, you know, what who's saying what with the media or this type of deception, but deception even with um, people's voices that can be copied, videos that can look like another person. So this cyber realm is taking us into this huge paradigm of deception. So really, who are we going to trust? Where are we going to turn to? And you have to be in touch with the intuition. So, like the practices you share in your book and being centered to the earth mother to decipher the truth. So I think we're going deeply into deception, but also people are going to have to make some difficult choices. We're not going to be able to be on the fence about things. You're either going to stand for the earth mother and for your
Mhm.
spirituality and for what you know is right, or you're going to be swept up into something. I think it would be kind of akin to the pandemic, how we saw people
Mhm.
really picking sides. We see politically people picking sides, but this picking side is going to have to do with your soul. And
Yes.
it's going to be the most important decision, and it's going to be difficult for all of us. I think we're going into some beautiful times eventually, but I think we're going into some really difficult times. And we have to be mentally, like I say in my book, and you say, extreme self care. We
Mhm.
have to really have a close circle of friends and a tribe that we're coming together with because um, the people that are going to be sticking with uh, the earth centered beings are going to be very small in comparison with the people that are going to go into the cyber reality.
Yeah.
I know that, and I believe that from the depth of my soul that that's what's going to happen, and we're going to be tempted and we're going to be tested as we are now. I have
Mhm.
temptations and tests all the time, and it's not
Mhm.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Oh
fun.
yeah, this path definitely tests people. And that's what it is. It's everybody is here to walk the hero's journey, but are you going
Yes.
to actually answer the call of the soul to leave that comfort zone, to embark on that path of the unknown? It's how our soul evolves, but so many, and this is the exact machine. I mean, I take it to a level that I don't know that you have, but I believe that um, there has been this artificial AI consciousness that is basically and has attempted to enslave and extract and siphon from humanity for millennia.
Oh yeah,
So, we
definitely. It's
can,
not new.
yeah,
It's in a new format, a new
yeah.
guise, maybe.
It's
Yeah.
now it's now come into the physical, this actual like technological artificial intelligence. Like we're aware of it. And now is that time where it's like it's in front of our faces. Do we have discernment to make the right choice? And I don't even like to say the right choice so much, but I feel like the right choice for our soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
The choice for our soul, and everybody's on their own path, of course, but yeah, I do agree that it's going to be some tumultuous years ahead, as as truth comes to light about the truth about who's really been running the show behind the scenes, pulling those puppet strings, if you will. I think a lot of people are going to kind of have psychotic breaks even potentially because it's going to be
Oh
too
yeah.
much to handle. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, I know this is why you wrote your book and that's why I wrote my book. It's like for this time to help people stay
Yes.
anchored and grounded in the truth. Those who are ready to
Yes.
say, hey, this doesn't feel right. And even if you don't understand it totally, like it's like, I know something's not right now. And then to give people tools and practices and practical perspective on what's happening. But, really
Yes.
starting from that practical level of how to heal the body. And like, yes, we can
Oh,
use
yeah.
plants.
Yeah. Use some plants. But I think your book is so important because you really, and I admire you for being a young woman who's so brave and writing about some of these topics. And when I read your book, I was like, wow, it took me, probably 25 years of being a therapist to know all the things. Although, you have an academic background in therapies and things that so I love that it was your part intuition, part being a yoga instructor, part being your academic training of how the mind works, and
Hmm.
Carl Jung, which I love and have read a lot of his books. And
Hmm.
but you're brave in saying things. I love what you said about women and about the feminism and
Hmm.
about um, what's happening, and how, because I have that in the book too, about the patriarchy and how we can heal that with the divine mother archetype. So you touch on so many things that I'm familiar, but I also remember what I'm reading in your book. I mean, some women that are going to pick that up might have never heard of any of these things, or never even
Hmm.
ventured to think about these things or put them all together. And I feel like
Hmm.
it's really important. I feel like every woman should read your book.
Oh, well, thank you.
I do.
I appreciate you for saying that. Yeah. I mean, I really I wrote this book for everyone, but I do think because it's now is the time of the rise of the divine feminine. It's like
Mhm.
women have really got to remember our power because we have been suppressed for so long, we have been persecuted for so long. And yeah, now it's coming through to kind of touch on that conversation we started again before we started recording about the opening of the throat chakra, because
Yes,
for me that was a huge journey,
me
and
too.
it wasn't easy to get to this point of being brave enough to speak my truth and what I know to be true from a deep heart and soul level, because I know some of these quote unquote truths are going to be really jarring for some people to integrate and to confront. And, it's like I went through the ringer to get to this point. I went through the belly of the beast, as I say myself. The beast, the machine, it's all the same. I
Hmm.
speak about that, I use that term about going through chemotherapy and my cancer journey because I did see the inner workings of the system. I experienced it in the most intimate manner possible and how upside down and backwards most of it felt. And speaking from a medical perspective, so much has suppressed women, but also, even down to birth control. And, it's like our hormones haven't been properly managed and dealt
Yeah.
with, and our entire societal structure. So, getting into that, I talk about putting on the pantsuit in my book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, we have so much power within us, but are we meant to just step into the role of a man's world? Like the roles created for a man's world is maybe the way to phrase that, It's
Well, I want to touch on something you said. It's really important. I had a mentor who was 20 years older than I was, and we worked with a lot of people that were getting over cancer and helping them do juice detox retreats. And I
oh.
did the body work and the yoga and help make the juices and stuff.
Mm.
Well, she was the one who told me about where the word hysterectomy came from and what that was all about. Now, do you
Ooh.
know about this?
I don't. Please share.
So this is every woman should know this. Is so interesting. So what was happening is when women were finding their voice, right? Because the throat chakra and our sacral chakra are connected,
Hmm.
the womb and the throat, that when women were acting hysterical, they would just take the womb out. They couldn't find it. So hysterectomy came from the root word of the woman being hysterical. And that's why a lot of the women's womb was taken out. And because my mentor Jill had found a lot of women she worked with cancer and things that could not speak their truth. And a
Yeah.
lot of them had had a hysterectomy. So there was a correlation between that. Can you imagine that, right?
Oh my gosh. I did not know that. That
Yeah,
is wild. That is a
I know.
fascinating tidbit, but I mean,
But you're
yeah.
not surprised.
Yeah,
Knowing what
like
you know, you're not surprised.
it just speaks so directly to the amount of suppression that has come through this patriarchal paradigm that is really honestly like I do think that there is a level of demonic energy that has captured the essence and the energy of the consciousness that has allowed this and perpetuated it. And, I don't want to get too dark
No, but
with it right now, but
that's okay. And I would like to share something else about cancer because I have a
yeah.
cancer story about myself.
Mm.
So I had a sore like on my arm, which my one girlfriend was accusing me of eating wheat and dairy, and I had a boil on my arm. I said it's not wheat and dairy. It's I've been an esthetician also. I still have my skincare license. I said no, this is something wrong. So I went and had like a biopsy. It
Mhm.
was a very fast growing tumor
Oh,
in
wow.
my arm. This was just like 2 years ago.
Oh.
So I wanted to they wanted right away to do an operation and cut into my arm. And, from being a massage therapist, I know every time, you're cutting into the fascia. And I'm like, not so quick. I want to do a little research.
Hmm.
And of course, they shame you and they call you, oh, it's going to be bad. This tumor is going to spread all through your body. It's fast growing. But I said, give me a minute. So I did research and I found something. And within 6 weeks, I was able to cure and the tumor went away. Well, I documented it. I put it on my YouTube channel and I helped so many people for about a year and a half. And then I think someone in the medical community flagged my video and it was taken down
Yeah.
that I was spreading medical misinformation, which here I am. I have a license for skincare in Florida. 30 years I've been an esthetician. It was my own body on my arm. It was documented. It was like a 5-minute video, but that was so threatening to people. And I had a link
Mhm.
to get this product that I had. And I was happy in that time. I helped so many people, but unfortunately, they took it down and there was, nothing else, nothing I could do. And they say, oh, you can appeal it, but there's no appeal. There's no appeal. They look at it again and say the same thing. And I wasn't doing
Hmm.
anything wrong. So there are many other options, and so I did, and
Yes.
I was really happy that it worked out that way, and I wished I could even help more people. But just know, anyone, if you do have skin cancer,
Hmm.
either a basal cell or a squamous cell, fast growing, which I had, do research. Don't just
Yeah.
go get things cut out of your body if you don't need to.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That is so fascinating. And also just, speaks to what I know to be true. I had a tiny spot on my leg a couple years after I went through my cancer ordeal and I found a recipe. And given what you just shared, I don't know if I can say it publicly either,
Yeah.
but it was kitchen recipe kind of thing, very cheap, I might add. And within 2 or 3 applications, literally no more than that, the thing was gone. It wasn't huge. It hadn't spread to be, and it didn't look like it was super deep because I did a little research into those different types of skin cancer. And, I didn't freak out about it. And I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And literally within 2 to 3 applications, not even like weeks, I wasn't even consistent because I kept forgetting to do it. And then all of a sudden it was gone. I was like, cool, that worked.
Yeah, I mean, skin cancer is just $1 billion industry. And
Hmm.
early in my career, I worked for a dermatologist and I worked for a plastic surgeon just briefly because it was too, I went out on my own, it was too confining. And I didn't even know back then really what was going on as far as the
Hmm.
medical thing. I remember, like many people just thinking the doctors just had the best intention, that they just really wanted to, heal you. And I'm not saying that they have a bad intention, but they're programmed. We talk about that,
Totally.
like in your book, talk about mind control, and they're
Hmm.
programmed for a certain box, and their
Hmm.
mind just will not think beyond it. So I don't think that they're bad people. I
No.
think they're just trained a certain way and they're not willing to look at other things, and they're really not willing in many ways to work with people. It's kind of their way or forget about it.
And I think there's so much pressure from the industry to
Oh, for
not
sure.
do integrative. I
For
mean,
sure.
kind of touched on this the other day in another interview, but we were talking about the how we got onto a similar subject actually, how a lot of these alternative doctors who came out with successful methodologies that were more natural. Yes, I'm kind of censoring myself right now, but
We
um,
all know what you mean.
yeah. Um, but within a short amount of time, and this was pre-COVID, they disappeared. They were disappeared. We're using specific
Hmm.
words here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them actually turned out. So I found this book in 2022 that was about sound healing, and there was at my own hospital where I was treated, there had been an integrative center. And I found this book in 2022 and I was like, why didn't I learn about this? Why did I not know anything about it? And I looked up the doctor who had published the book, and
Hmm.
he had been the head of the center there, and he had died 6 months before I started treatment. And I
Oh,
looked up the circumstances, and it was shady AF. And then I saw him on a list. I did a little more digging. There was a list of like 50
like
doctors.
Erin Elizabeth, right? And then she got shut down. Do you know her? She's like a kind of like a news reporter that she had that list of all the doctors, and
Was it?
she got
Yeah.
she got deplatformed of all of
Yeah.
her information.
And so some people are, their posts are taken down, your video is taken down, they're deplatformed, they lose their platform entirely on social media. They're cast as con artists and frauds and things like this. Um, Selling snake oil, all the things under the book. And then in some extreme cases, if they're really doing too much to help people naturally,
Yeah,
they will no longer be here. And it's very sketchy, and so yeah, it's just it speaks to this level of consciousness that is trying to keep us unwell, to keep us enslaved, really is what
yeah,
it's about. It's this mind
it is.
control thing, to get back to that term. Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of mind control. I try to find the quote to mention, Carl Jung in the book a lot, because I know you're a fan of his, a lot of his work, right? And
Yeah.
I couldn't find the quote, but he talked about many years ago that when nature goes away, when nature has been destroyed, enough of nature is destroyed, what will happen is it's the desecration and the destroying of the human mind, about the mind being connected to nature. And this
Mhm.
is why, if I can make for a second, just go back to the garden. A lot of
Yes.
people think they don't want to garden because it's a lot of work, but a lot of things in life are work. But the point is, you get back as much as you put in. And I
Mhm.
could have really been depressed quite a bit in the last few years about a myriad of different things. But every time I go out to take care of the garden, it brings me so much more than just the food and the medicine, just the life force energy, the prana that's out there. Like, I never got COVID because I was building my food forest during COVID. So I'm in
Mm.
the fifth year of my project now.
Wow.
I planted over 50 fruit trees. And maybe I have like maybe close to, well, at one point, since the hurricane destroyed a few things, but like over
Oh.
100 different species of between pollinators and edible plants and things. But the trees, and it's been such a wonderful thing. It's the best thing I've done, and I know not everybody's going to want to do it. We live in Florida with a lot of homeowners associations, but I'm coming up with other alternatives that
Mm.
people can do, because it's not just about the food. Or people think, why would I want to go through that much effort when I can just go to Whole
Mm.
Foods and buy organic produce? But it's who you're becoming in the process. I have a little
Mm.
plaque that says, as the garden grows, so does the gardener. It's who you're becoming while you're growing the garden. It's
Yeah.
not just getting the food and the medicine. It's like you said, a symbiotic relationship with nature, and you can't quantify that type of healing. You
Right.
feel it. You can't measure it, but you will feel it. And I know it's lifted my spirits more than maybe anything ever has, creating this garden.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah, because nature is healing because there's the actual ions and the photons and the
Mhm.
beneficial bacteria in the soil if you're actually gardening, and feet on the earth, hands in the dirt, that kind of thing. But also it's part of us. It's really a
Yes.
soul level healing, I feel, because like we get that sense of deep connection, the connection to the mother that I think so many are
Yeah.
actually missing. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, so that's just what came through anyway. But yeah, I love that that is. the plants have spoken to you so deeply and this is
Yes.
your mission, because this is exactly what we do need more of to raise children in that kind of environment. Honestly, how I see it as well. They're healthy when they're out playing in
Yeah.
nature and allowed to explore and not sanitizing every two
Oh, yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you really want your kids to not have any idea where a vegetable comes from or a fruit? Or I have people that come to tour the garden, and being a nonprofit, I offer a lot of things for free. And it's sad nowadays that people are like, well, you have to charge because if you don't, people don't value it. And I think that's kind of a sad way to look at things when I'm trying to really do something in that way. And I don't always believe that because something doesn't cost. But I wanted to make that affordable for people. So there's no fee, that they can come a few times a year, do the tour. I make herbal tea from the garden. I give
Mhm.
them cuttings and seeds and everything that they need, a blueprint to be successful. But how many of them, will really do it? Well, that's, like you've got a blueprint too with you, with your work in your school, but it's up to the person if they're going to do it. You can't make people be healthy. You can't make people have an open
Mhm.
mind. You can't make people do anything. You can
Yeah.
only invite them. And if they're of the right consciousness or similar consciousness, and they want to be part of the new humanity, then this is something that is offered to them that they can connect
Mhm.
with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's very much about, that expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, obviously came to mind.
Yeah.
It's like, but what that means is like the soul really has to be ready. The
Oh,
human,
yeah.
the ego has to be ready to surrender to the soul. I don't love the term ego death because it's what creates the container for our human experience, but it kind of dissolves the
Oh,
walls
yeah.
of the ego is one
Yeah.
image that came
That's
through.
better.
Yeah.
Dissolving of the ego.
Yeah, and it's like the
Mhm.
walls of the ego dissolve to allow that soul to be expressed through the ego. And so that's how I see it now. And it's not an easy process because of all the conditioning and all the programming of our society. It's like the golden handcuffs as well that keep us
Mhm.
working those jobs that we don't have time for the garden. And on the
Yeah.
weekends, people are too tired to do this, or they've got to take the kids to all the activities then.
Mhm.
And it's I understand why it's very challenging to walk away from that way of life. I totally understand because it took me a long time, even though I consciously knew it took a long time to extract myself. And a cancer diagnosis included in the midst. But there is, in my humble opinion, nothing more gratifying and satisfying than creating a life that you're actually feeling fulfilled. And I have had so many challenges on my own path to get to that
Oh,
point
yeah,
and to get my
definitely.
book out there, but and I know you know that very well. And that can be, challenging for a lot of people to confront. Unfortunately, some people look at me and they're like, why would I ever want to do that? Because you have so much. And I'm like, I get it. Like, because it's like, but I feel like that's also part of that consciousness that, like, because I've been psychic attacked and like siphoned
Oh,
from
me
all
too.
sorts of things. Yeah.
You
And
might have
so,
read that part in my book. I related to you saying that.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, these things have really tried, those of us who have kind of broken free from the mold, there have been so many forces trying to hold us back and
Oh,
to
yeah.
keep us down so that we can't show people as clearly how to do this. And, but I feel like that's kind of crumbling as well. So the pathways are being cleared more completely. Yeah, but I just see this as the path forward of being connected to the land in any way, shape, or form, connecting in community of people who understand that this is the way forward, that if we're building something that is not in connection with nature, we're just going to keep getting more of what we've had, which is just stuff that doesn't work for
Yeah.
us.
And you're going to turn into an artificial human.
Mhm.
There's so much artificiality already, but it'll be even worse. I mean, don't you think there's something quite strange about not ever touching your food or dealing with your food. I mean, I know people that don't
Yeah.
even, not even just growing it, but not really even shopping for it, not touching, your produce, not
Hmm.
squeezing, to see if your melon is ripe. I mean, people are just devoid of it, or eating out all the time,
Yeah.
picking up fast food, and forgetting that food is a sacred thing. And in Ayurveda, we are made up of the elements of the food we eat. That we have a food that's out here, we take it into, this food becomes us. So you are
Yeah.
what you eat has a
Hmm.
huge meaning behind it. So if you're eating all this fake food, who are you becoming? And if you're not having any kind of relationship with your food, or having your food sacred, whether it's, just gratitude. I love that about your book too. And that helped me. I had a tough week,
Mm.
and reading just about gratitude. And I woke up
Mm.
really early this morning, and I was just going into my gratitude. I mean, it really shifted me. So the thing is, some people could read our types of books, or they say, well, I know that. I know that. Yeah, you might know that intellectually, but you're not practicing it. And we know from being a yoga teachers that we are, yeah, you have a yoga mat, but it's in your closet. You got to get on the mat and practice. And you have to
Yeah.
do these practices if you want to evolve, if you want to be healthy. But another thing is, I wanted to say, it's important about your book, is letting people know it's okay to have these dark nights of the soul, these
Hmm.
breakdowns. They're not unnormal. They're not something wrong with you. We have to have them, and we have to deal with them. We're never going to be stronger if we don't face these things. It's not, oh, you're depressed, take a pill. Oh, you can't deal with this, so consider yourself, oh, a victim. I've got this problem. No, you have these things to make you stronger, and you are being tempted and tested to get over it. Although I do believe, if you don't have a spiritual perspective that you even have a soul, then you'll easily go into the artificial reality or the cyber world, because you don't know that you have something in you that is so valuable and so
Hmm.
important and so sacred that it's not going to matter to you.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree with all of that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much in what you just said that is so important. But yeah, it's like from the most fundamental level, we are what we eat. And if we're disconnected from the heart and soul of Mother Earth, then how are we going to feel connected to ourselves, to our own soul? I think, that's kind of what is coming through to share what you like, reflect what you just shared. Basically, it's like it all is connected. And when we
Mhm.
forget that sense of connection, then we're going to be so much more easily manipulated and just sucked into these agendas and just go along with what they say is, the way forward for humanity is technology this, technology that. I've heard some terrible people there. Yes, that's judgment. But, people saying that like humans have no souls and we are no better than cockroaches. Like there are some talking heads out there that have influence in the world that people pay attention to who say these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that itself is pure evil, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it is. And I want to make a distinction also, is that what the Mother Ayahuasca has shared with me many times is, if you don't make the choice will be made for you.
Mm,
And it goes
yes.
into that. So you cannot, maybe there's times, oh, we don't want to take a stand politically. Okay. We don't want to take a stand about certain human rights. Okay. We can go and live our life, but there's
Hmm.
going to be a point. You're not going to be able to be ambivalent. You're going to have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the message, which I have to hold up my book. That is the
Yes.
messages, I author copy, the message of the medicine. And I do
It's
want to say
beautiful.
it has a lot of pictures in
It
it.
does.
So, to illustrate, so you won't be, it's not like, I like to think it's a fast paced read, but, besides the story of goes from the jungle to the Andes Mountains and all the plants,
Hmm.
but it also connects with, my personal story, how and your book talks about I've surrendered to this path, this spiritual path, which happens to be a plant medicine, and I've let it guide me, and I've had to surrender to have the life I have now, which would have never been the life that my personality wanted. There was many times that the medicine said, make your personality small so your soul can be big.
Ooh, I love
Mhm.
that. Yeah. And I think the way you phrase that is so poignant as well. It's not the life my personality would have wanted.
Mm-mm, not at all. It still
Yeah.
isn't today.
Eh.
But I know that I know that I have a mission, and I'm working on
Mm,
my courage every day to embody it. And I thank you for having me, because it's not been easy for me to speak my truth, and it
mm.
still isn't. I mean, I just wrote a thing on Facebook, and I was about being able to communicate truth, and then I saved it as a draft because I couldn't even do it what I wrote,
Mm,
because it's difficult. And I know a lot of people are feeling silenced right now. We're afraid we're going to get canceled. We're afraid we're going to get in trouble. We're afraid,
mhm.
we can't speak the truth, but we have to find the courage to do so. So me coming
Yeah.
on here, maybe we can encourage some other women to find that deep inside them, to speak the truth they need to say, and to find proper ways of communication. We can't be silent. We also can't just blurt everything out in a violent way. We have to find that
Mhm.
true path of peaceful communication, and that's very difficult.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah. So for me, to that last point, when I was stepping into my power and creating the boundaries and speaking my truth, it was a rocky road getting into that space. And at some points it still kind of is, depending on the relationship itself, because people are used to you being often the people pleaser, or
Mm-hmm.
staying silent to keep the peace kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is how many, if not most, women have been conditioned.
Yes.
So this is very much a pervasive woman issue, not just like an empath issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that was not an easy path to navigate. And I dealt with a lot of projection myself. And, there are definitely some narcissistic energies. And I know a lot of people kind of overuse that term, but I also feel like that's part of this collective egregore
Oh yeah.
working through people, is like trying to diminish them and kind of bully them and like you're canceled and like whatever, or you're a conspiracy theorist, and like
Mm-hmm.
saying kind of really mean things about the quality of your character, not just the content of what your dialogue is. It's like, I disagree with you versus you're a bad person kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so it is really hard to step forward and
Yeah,
speak your
shaming
truth.
people. And like we talked about too,
Hmm.
and well, we talked, I talked to myself while I was reading your book, but about shame being such a low vibration. A lot of the plant medicine works with people to
Mm,
go through your guilt and your shame. And especially if you were raised super religious like me, that was actually the hardest program to get through. I would say
yeah.
I've done maybe over 100 ayahuasca ceremonies, and it's
Mm,
still working deeply on me. And the religious programming, because that's such a mind control. Because think about that, that's like your soul is at stake, and like you talk about,
mm,
oh, you're a sinner, or
mm-hmm.
you're a bad person. So that's bringing up these things. When people label you that for speaking your truth, you're a
Totally.
terrible person, they want to shame you, which is the
Mm-hmm.
lowest vibration.
Yes, and that's how they keep us out of our power. That is the precise mechanism. And that's why religion has been the way it is. I could go on a whole spiel about religion right now, but I think I
No, we
won't.
don't have time for that. I think people know. If people
Yeah.
have been raised religious,
Yeah.
then they definitely know.
They
And
know.
the thing with the plant medicine in Peru, one of the things I noticed was, I was in my late 40s when I went for the first time there.
Mm,
And I was with a lot of people in their 20s who were so hungry for spiritual truth.
mm,
And the plant medicine was the bridge, because they either weren't raised religious or they
mm-hmm.
were. And it was something that was very confining. Maybe they were in,
Mm,
Mormonism or Jehovah's
yeah.
Witness, or it doesn't matter what, some form of Christianity. And they did not believe in what their parents believed in, or they saw that their parents took them to church, but they didn't act a church person. Like, I love this phrase of Gandhi, and when he was doing all his important work in India, and Christians were coming up against him, and he says,
Mm,
I like your Christ, but I don't like your Christians, because your Christians act nothing like your Christ.
mm-hmm.
And, he meant it in the way that you're going to promote this, but you don't act what your book says. You don't do what is
Mm-hmm.
in the book. So I saw people with really beautiful intentions going to Peru to take the plant medicine. They're not there. People have and that's why I wrote my book also. I want people to know what the real deal is about these medicines. And
Yeah.
people think you're going there for a trip, you're going there to have fun. This isn't a
Mm-mm.
rave, this isn't a dance party. This is deep work on trauma,
Oh
deep
yeah.
work on finding the truth within yourself. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the young people, so people are searching for that. They're searching for the God within or some sense of truth, because we are
Mm-hmm.
programmed to discover the truth about ourselves, about our world. We need truth more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's literally the name of my podcast, Heart of Truth. Right? So
That's right.
yeah, I feel like it kind of weaves itself into the conversation some way, shape, or form. It's very funny. But that's exactly it. Like we are all seeking this truth that is a higher truth, but it's
Mhm.
contained within
Yes.
ourselves. And, I have done a little bit of plant medicine, not nearly as much as you have. And the experiences I have had, though, have been profound and they've been very deep. And we all have our own paths.
Hmm.
And, just like you don't have to do plant medicine. And you also,
No,
like,
definitely
if
not.
you're feeling the call, trust that. I feel like the
Oh, yeah.
medicine will call you when you're ready. And
Yes.
it's like people, what I have found, and I would love to hear your perspective on this too, is like if people are seeking it out, that may not actually be, what's in their highest alignment if they're searching for it. Rather, if it comes to you, if it aligns in your path, for example, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I have found that I feel like that just resonates more deeply in that people who kind of go into it like seeking something, seeking, they're opening themselves up a lot of the times without being ready for it. And that can kind of cause destabilization, I'll put it that way,
Oh, yeah.
if not worse. And, then people on another level might not have the level of discernment to know who is holding a proper container. And so they might be taken over by these darker
Oh,
energies as
oh
well.
yeah. I mean, that's a big topic as well. And my book for sure is not prescriptive. I don't say you should
Yeah,
do it. I don't say you shouldn't do it.
definitely not.
And
Yeah.
it's not for everybody. And I didn't think it would be a path for me, but there's a point that one of the characters in the book, Ray, who um he says, you're on the path because the mother ayahuasca still wants you on the path, because I
Mhm.
wouldn't be getting anything from it anymore. I wouldn't, like, I know
Right.
someone recently who went with me and he had done the medicine a few times, but he would just purge and there was some blockage there. And I said, maybe that
Mhm.
after 3 times the medicine isn't for you. If that would have happened to me, I wouldn't have continued on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of you know, deep, uh, deep truth, because it is a master plant teacher. But I
Hmm.
feel like you also need another spiritual path. It's a catalyst, but you have to do the work. The work is
Mm.
in between the ceremonies. And for me, I was fortunate that I had the path of yoga. So my diet and the meditation and things that were aligned.
Hmm.
But if you don't have any kind of grounded center, or if you have any mental problems and instabilities, I mean, that are deep, you shouldn't, in my opinion, be taking these plant medicines. And you
Hmm.
have to really do your research. But I don't hold it against someone to just go as a curiosity, because I only went as a curiosity. I
Sure.
didn't think it was going to be a path, although I have a deep resonance to plants. I think that's my path or my karma or my dharma. You could say this lifetime is the plant world. Obviously, when people see my background and my work with the plants in all these years, plants are my thing, and they're not going to be everybody's thing. But just be careful, and you, like you said, use discernment, and
Hmm.
you it's not for everybody. Nothing's for
Yeah.
everybody, right? Other than drinking
Hmm.
water and breathing the air. I mean, even
Yeah.
food now is so disputed. This is good. This isn't good. You have to figure out what's good for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you phrased that so perfectly. It's a catalyst. It's a catalyst, but you also need to have your spiritual
Mhm.
path to be able to integrate. I feel like that is exactly what it has
Yeah.
been missing is that integration piece for people
Mhm.
to then embody what it is that they're there to remember or, an aspect of their self that they're ready to reclaim perhaps or whatever the case may be, what's ever coming
Right.
up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, like the ayahuasca, many of the times that you'll go and have a ceremony, it becomes in your mind like a dream. And if you don't have a way to, I recommend your journal, and that's kind of how I started. Was a lot of journaling that made up that book. But you have to you have to use the what the medicine tells you, because if you don't, it's like having a best friend that's really wise, and you go and you tell your best friend, as they come to you, and you give them advice, and you help them, but they never want to do anything you say, you're going to stop telling them. So
Yeah.
I feel like the plants worked with me for 16 years now,
Mm.
because I mean, I've done my best. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I have honestly done what the medicine has guided me to do. And it's been really hard. And again, it goes against my
Mhm.
personality. It goes against what I've wanted to do, but I've listened and I trusted, and it's turned out to be the right thing for me to do. But
Mhm.
in no way was it easy, because if you don't listen, just like your intuition will stop talking to you if you don't pay attention to anything it tells you.
Mhm.
So maybe the you could look at the mother ayahuasca as the archetype of the divine feminine, that the perfect mother isn't always going to just give you, milk and cookies. The perfect mother is going to have to spank you once in a while to get you in line, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
metaphorically speaking. I'm not
that's
saying, you're going to beat your kids, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but sometimes the kids need to be put in their
Discipline,
place, right?
discipline,
Discipline. There you go.
discipline,
Discipline.
not abuse, discipline.
Yeah. Yes, different. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's what I was getting at, and you phrased it just probably a little bit better. But that, it's not something that you should be seeking out from the space of, as you put it, uh, like getting a high or going on a trip or
Mhm.
something like that. This is like something that you are meant to approach with reverence. And
Oh, yeah, that's
if
the
you're
word.
curious, that is fine, but it's like, this is not just a walk in the park. It's a path that really, it initiates you. It catalyzes something much more profound and deeper, I think, is probably, as you put it, like the best way to look at this kind of medicine.
Yes, very well said.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you. And very well said on all fronts on your part. Yeah. So, wow, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank
Hmm.
you so much.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I really have enjoyed reading your book, and I do highly recommend it to those who are listening and, are curious about the path, but also just like the general path of a soul seeker, whether you're interested in specifically plant medicine or not, because Katie just really beautifully shares her journey and very authentically, very vulnerably. So I feel like it's something that you can easily connect with when you're, open and curious about what might be available for you. I feel like it's just a beautiful story as well and really well
Oh,
written.
thank you. And I really wanted to give people a sense of what Peru is like, because it's a
Hmm.
magical place. And many
Yeah.
people will never go to the Amazon. And I've been twice now, and I don't know if I'll ever even get to go again, or
Hmm.
if that's, a continuation of my journey. I don't probably think I will. And I like to give people that glimpse, just like I like to watch things of places I'll never go, living vicariously.
Hmm.
So I think there is that aspect. And then there's the practical aspect of that we do have a mission in life. And I really encourage people, especially women, to find theirs, because it's what we're meant on this earth to do.
Absolutely. I
Well, thank
completely
you.
agree.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me on today. I really, really love this. And
Uh,
you are a bright light, and I highly recommend your book. And I
oh,
will be recommending it to other people, because
appreciate
it's
that.
so grounded in truth and wisdom and love. And it's something we all have to embody. It was a great reminder of me, and it really took me out of my funk I've been in. And I
Oh.
thank you for that.
Oh, well, my absolute honor and pleasure. I appreciate you for saying that. Yes. And you have inspired me to go to Peru. I have not yet been myself, so
Oh, you love it.
it's been on the back of my mind. It's been on my list for a while, but yeah, it hasn't aligned yet. And I
It
add
has to
yet.
align.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, Katie, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I so appreciate
Thank you,
you for sharing
Amanda.
your magic.
It's been awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, for the audience tuning in, thank you so much for being here with both of us on this beautiful conversation and this journey. And if you want to connect with Katie, all of her details will be linked below, her websites and how to connect with her. So please do check below and connect with her. And thank you for being here, onward and upward in love and light, as we journey home to the heart of truth. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Heart of Truth podcast with your host, Amanda Erin Kelly. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating or review on your favorite platform. And if you'd like to go deeper, grab your copy of my book, Let There Be Light, and join us inside the free community in Illumina Wisdom School, where you can access free resources to jumpstart your journey, such as a higher self activation and the Body Temple Blueprint Masterclass, as well as explore the plethora of resources, including Awakening Fundamentals and Luminary, my signature path to wholeness and mastery, to help you become your own healer and sovereign authority. You can access everything at thisartcalledlife.com or find the links down in the show notes below. Until next time, onward and upward in love and light as we journey home to the heart of truth.